Welcome to the Broncos podcast with Troy Rank. I'm your host, Troy Rank, columnist for the Denver Post. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your weekend, wherever you are. And thank you, Broncos country, so much for your support. It's been a crazy few days in our sports scene. It's been a lot of Thursday writing about Chauncey Billups, and man, stunning news there. Hoping for the best for Chauncey, someone I covered as he won a state championship for George Washington High School in 1993. So as the sporting world got rocked by that NBA scandal, it shifts now back, as it always does, to the NFL. The NFL is king. We know this. And the Broncos are now part of that royalty group again at 5-2, leading the AFC West. But it's a strange 5-2. Let's be honest. I got into a back and forth with Sean Payton earlier this week about, do you believe what your mentor Bill Parcells says, that your record says what you are? And he says, absolutely. But there are a lot of metrics at 5-2 that don't make a lot of sense for this Broncos team, but it's stuff that's fixable. And you got a home game to do it against a very, very dangerous Cowboys offense. But what are some of the things we need to see and are important to this matchup? Bo Nix, is all the blame necessary on Sean Payton? Or do we need to see something else from Bo Nix? And man, the penalties have to come down. There's just no way around it. Good teams don't get penalized like the Broncos get penalized, even if we think maybe Sean Payton and his teams get singled out. Penalties got to come down. And what a matchup we're going to have on the outside in this game, with four of the best players going right now at their positions at cornerback and receiver. It is absolutely tasty. I cannot wait. See what that looks like. But Broncos 5-2 host the Cowboys in what will be an electric atmosphere. As this team, the Broncos, your Broncos, have won 8 straight at home. Can they make it 9? We'll get to all of it after the break. Have you been hurt in a car wreck or injured at work? What are you waiting for? Give my friends at Hoggatt Injury Law a call. Their motto, with us, it's personal. That's because it is. I've known Darby Hoggatt forever. Our boys played baseball together, and I got to know Darby. We talked a lot of Broncos. He said, hey, Troy, why don't you do a pod? And I was like, okay. And because of him, really, is the reason I started the pod, is having his support behind it. And here we are, how many years later? So again, if you've been hurt in a car wreck, injured at work, give Darby's team a call. He becomes his client's friend. You don't even have to pay Darby up front. The case goes as planned. Darby will be the one paying you. So again, give him a call here. 1-833-464-4288. That's the number for Darby. 1-833-464-4288. Or visit the website at hoggattlaw.com. Welcome back to the Broncos pod. I am your host, Troy Rank from the Denver Post. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. It's an exciting time for the Broncos. 5-2 is still 5-2. It's looked weird. These last 3 games against the Eagles, Jets, and Giants have had some of the most spectacular fourth quarters in franchise history. We just go back through it. They overcame a road deficit of at least 14 points against the Eagles, first time in franchise history. Like 1,200 teams, in the cases that had that opportunity, didn't happen. Then against the Giants, they played one of the most ridiculously atrocious offensive football games you'll ever see. A punt fest, a puntapalooza that had people in London coming up to me and say, I could have stayed home and watched soccer if I didn't want to see somebody score. Hey, I hear you. I hear you. They found a way to get one drive in that game when they were down 11-10 after a safety and win 13-11 in a game that was ugly. Get back on the charter, fly back home against a Giants team that in most books they're 7.5 point favorite, and they are down 19-0 deep into the fourth quarter. And over the span of 16 possessions, bridging the 3 final quarters of the Jets game and the first 3 quarters of the Broncos game against the Giants, Denver didn't have a touchdown over 16 possessions. So it's not just us saying, oh, it feels like you're struggling. No, they were struggling. 16 possessions is like a game and a half, and sometimes that's 2 games where you would have no touchdowns. So don't tell me it's not as bad as it looked. It was every bit as bad as it looked. But the Broncos found a way. 33-point fourth quarter. Bo Nix absolutely went off in the fourth quarter. 15-23, almost 160 yards passing, 4 scores. Was he Abe Lincoln? 4 score and X number of years ago. 2 on the ground, 2 through the air. But it's why are the Broncos putting themselves in this position? He had a great fourth quarter against Philly and a really good first quarter against the Jets. And then basically there's like another 9 quarters in there that are just like wasteland. So what is going on with that? And the inclination is to blame Sean Payton's play calling. And it frustrates all of us, myself included. Mine involves more of the personnel changes and the people in the game and getting late to the line of scrimmage. And I think it's not helping Bo because he doesn't have enough time. He should be getting the line of scrimmage earlier, 14, 15 seconds left, a chance to dissect, relax, take a breath. And instead, the play comes in late. It's a long play. That's typical of the Sean Payton offense. You're bringing in 4 new guys, and too often Bo's screaming at guys at where to go. Hard to get into your rhythm mentally. Let's talk about physically, but mentally, when you're worried about getting guys lined up. That's number one. Number two is there is this reliance of the way this offense is built right now, like this NBA team that either makes layups or shoots threes. There's no intermediate game at all. I mean, you look at his passing chart in the middle of the field these last 3 weeks, it's almost non-existent outside of a few crossing routes to Cortland Sutton. They had a touchdown to Engram in the middle of the field. They just don't use the middle of the field. And so is that Sean Payton? Yes, some of it that's Sean Payton on the play design, his play sheet. We've said it's too big. He gets too cute at times, and I have no doubt he's great on the whiteboard, and these plays should work. There's too many of them, and I don't think some of these plays match the personnel. But I need to be fair here, too. When you look at why Bo Nix isn't in rhythm early in games, folks, he's missing some passes, especially some deep strikes that could change the complexion of a game early. And this goes back to some mechanical stuff we talk about, where he flies open a little bit, gets underneath the ball, kind of like they say in pitching, you get underneath it, the ball rides on you or sails. I mean, Bo Nix, the deep ball against the Giants it wasn't not only they missing, he's missing by 5-7 yards. These passes aren't close. The one pass that was close to Marvin Mims straight down the middle of the field, great coverage by the Giants. That was the one ball that was close, and he was really well covered. But the deep ball has not been Bo Nix's friend this season at all. Now, remember, we've seen it, and you can think back to both the Browns game last year on that just absolute beautiful dart to Marvin Mims. Think back to another deep ball to Marvin Mims against the Bengals, a deep ball to Troy Franklin at the Bills. So it's there. But early in games, Bo is out of rhythm with that play. And he has talked about when he felt like things got going against the Jets, it was kind of a simple 7-yard out to Cortland Sutton toward the end of the third quarter. Because remember the drive, they finally scored to get it to 19-8, started in the third quarter. They were held scoreless through 3. First time in NFL history a team scored 33 points with being shut out through 3 quarters. Understandably so. Why would you think there'd be an explosion in the fourth when you haven't scored into the first 3 quarters? But he felt like that got him in rhythm. And he said 2 things these last couple of weeks, both after the Jets game and then the Giants game, that he likes up-tempo because it keeps the defense off balance and making changes, and it feels like you're dictating the game to them. And he likes the fact that he's a rhythm passer, and these little square outs kind of get him going. And the default for Sean Payton, when you look at it and watch it on film, is look for that deep strike early. It's not there. Screen game. Like there's no in between. And the screen game sucked against the Giants. And if you watch, to be fair, some of them were dialed up well, and the blocking was terrible. I mean, you can't have guys missing multiple blocks on a screen pass and have it work. It just won't. It's designed, the timing of wait 1-2, let the defense come forward, get the guy underneath behind the rushers, and then you've got blockers out in front. Even on the bubble screen, I mean, when we talked to Peyton Manning last week, that bubble screen, they'd end up with guards out there, and DT had a way of catching it. And this is where Manning was huge. And Kurt Warner, these Hall of Famers who get the ball to the guy in rhythm. If you go back and watch the bubble screens, DT was moving forward a little bit and catching it, moving forward, and then angling his body toward the blockers. They had a play on fourth down with the Broncos last week, a bubble screen, and I think it was Sutton, if memory serves. They're catching it flat-footed as the defense is coming full speed at you. That can't work. You're going to run that, and no blocking. So of course it gets blown up. But if you're going to run these bubble screens, it needs to be a little more angular where that guy can catch the ball with a little momentum, and that allows him, gets him a little closer to the blockers. Blockers make make contact, and you get around him for whatever, 5-7 yards. But what I'm saying about all this, we can't just excuse the fact that Sean Payton doesn't know how to call plays, hasn't had a top 10 offense since essentially 2019. Those are fair criticisms, but Bo has not lived up to his expectations yet either. And I think it goes back to they ask him to do too much. They have too much on his plate, that they really need to look at where they are 7 games in now. We're not, 2 games in. This is not a small sample size. That when Nix has played his best, it's been up tempo. He's used his legs, and he gets into rhythm. He is a rhythm passer. On these early deep strikes, it's almost like a pitcher that's like, all right, go for that, your best fastball early, and he needs to get through, 10 pitches in to kind of get into the flow of the game. Whether you say that's right or wrong, I'm just saying what I watch, my eyes are telling me. They need to find ways to find the middle ground. On the crossing routes, on the little outs, it's something besides screen, deep ball. Now, if they establish the run, the deep ball would be easier because it would be off bootleg and play action. So you're not just lining up my best guy versus your best guy, trying to throw a guy open. So I just think there's tweaks involved here. We see it. We see it in the fourth quarter, why Bo Nix can work. He's got the clutch gene. He doesn't, get excited when things are going wrong. He's got so much that you like about it. But the reality is, he and Sean Payton, Joe Lombardi, have to be very cognizant of getting Bo in rhythm. Not forcing him to get in rhythm through your play sheet, but use your play sheet to get him into rhythm. You have the personnel with Dobbins in the screen game, with Engram on these square outs, with Sutton. That is the key, in my opinion, is finding that happy medium to get Bo going earlier in the games. Because, folks, they're not going to keep winning games trailing by double-digit scores, especially on the road. They did it once at Philly, but you're talking about historic comebacks. You can't live that way. It's not sustainable. It's exciting. We all love it, but you just can't consistently overcome 10, 14, 19-point deficits. You're just not going to do it. It only takes one play to take you out of a comeback. And we saw that we certainly saw that with the Giants game. If not for Jackson Dart's interceptions, there's no way that they win that game. No way. And there's another thing that has to change. Feels like we're being critical for a team that's 5-2, but the players believe it. They know it. We've seen so many cases in Sean Payton's time here where they identify an issue and they improve over time through coaching and execution. There is one thing that has to change going forward, and I'm going to get to that after this quick break. Listen, when you face curveballs from family challenges, divorce, legal separation, child support, alimony, custody, you need a lawyer who understands the human dynamics, the courtroom, and is willing to fight for your rights. You need Ted Shih. He's a graduate of Cal Berkeley Law. Ted brings 40 years of courtroom and 20 years of family law experience to your corner. Ted's been a social worker, a police detective, but first and foremost, a trial lawyer. He's tried cases across Colorado and the country. Martindale-Hubbell ranks Ted among the top lawyers in the United States. You want an expert to navigate your family challenge? Call Ted. His passion is putting you first. Ted will work to settle your case, but he's not afraid to go toe-to-toe in a trial. Ted can be reached at Theo Shih, that's TheoShih at AOL.com, or call Ted. Here's the number. Write it down, 303-475-2981, 303-475-2981. Ted promises to respond to your concerns within 24 hours, 365 days a year. All right, welcome back to the Broncos Pod. As you know, I'm Troy Rank from the Denver Post. You can find all my stuff. I have a column earlier this week about this very issue. Go to denverpost.com/sports. and columnist, and my stuff will be there. And I have one about, listen, Broncos, they need to discipline themselves before others do. That's the lead of the story. They are getting penalized at an alarming rate. Last 2 weeks, 12 penalties each. For 6 consecutive weeks, they've had a negative differential in penalties with their opponents, a minus 44.3 yards. It's hard to win that way when you're giving up a half a field every game in yardage. And nobody talks more about hidden yards as a coach I've covered than Sean Payton. And you're giving up 45, 44 yards per game in hidden yardage. That's tough. That's a field goal. That's a touchdown. That's a drive when you look at turning the field over. And it's not just one game, folks. The Broncos rank second in penalties to the Jaguars and first in penalty yards against at 575. Listen, was the call last week against Moss in the fourth quarter bullshit? Yeah, it was. Perfect technique, found the ball, and the guy pulled him over, grabbed his helmet, and they call off a defensive PI. That's BS. I think we all can agree on that. But you can't keep getting penalties. You can't keep getting penalties at this rate. And the ones that are killing them are pre-snap penalties. You know, Nick Benito's had 4 offsides. Pat Surtain leads the team with 5 penalties. Probably 3 of those are weak sauce, but he's got 5. But you've got multiple guys with pre-snap, false start penalties. That's the stuff you got to clean up. Effort penalties, hustle penalties, bang penalties. You can live with all that. And once in a while, you're going to get a late hit that sends a message. You can live with all that. The reality is it's the pre-snap stuff, the mental stuff you can control. Getting lined up on time, figuring it out, getting to my spot early enough to know what I'm doing. They got to eliminate play cleaner, because as you go onto the road to Houston coming up, you're going to go on the road to Washington. You got these road games coming up, and then you at the back half of that schedule, you got the Chiefs twice, you got the Packers, and you have the Chargers. You're not going to win games against those 4 teams specifically getting penalized what they are right now, which is like 9 times for like 95 yards a game. That number has got to be somewhere around 5 and 40. It just cannot be that high. Sean Payton, I asked him about it and said, can you reach your goals with that number of penalties? And he said it would be unprecedented. You don't typically see a good team that finishes in the top 4 and is in that mix, that Super Bowl window, that Super Bowl bubble, that leads the team or is close in penalties. So that's something we got to keep an eye on. But I talked to the players about it, Zach Allen and Evan Engram, about the penalties. They love the fact on the Moss one, Sean Payton had their back. Guys love that, and as they should. And honestly, if there was ever a time for Payton to take that penalty, that was it, because they were already at the 1 yard line because of the interference. It moved it up 6 inches, and the Giants scored sooner. I asked Payton, was it on purpose? He said absolutely not. But that one didn't really hurt them. It helped, but he said it was silly. He understands he can't be going on the field. If he had been a baseball manager, he'd been thrown out, right? So he understands that. Players love, he has their back. That's not eyewash. But it goes back into the discipline issue. Dre Greenlaw being suspended and that being upheld. These are discipline issues. Justin Strnad's going to get fined for bumping official, what I think is bullshit. The official kind of is in the way, and Strnad's trying to celebrate. That official, I can't imagine, is going to do another Broncos game. Allen, I think it's his last name too. I can't imagine we see him in another Broncos game. That crew did not have a good day. But these are all examples of things they have to tighten up. You can make individual singular explanations for stuff, but in the collective, it's too many penalties. So while you can defend specific moments, you can't play the victim and just say, well, it's this and this. They're out to get Sean. And the reality is the penalties got to come down. Here's the players, Zach Allen, talking about the penalties and Sean Payton having his teams back, and Evan Engram on the penalties and getting off to a better start to give yourself more margin for error if you do have mistakes like penalties. Here's Zach, and here is Evan Engram from the locker room earlier this week.
Obviously, some penalties are going to happen when you play kind of as hard and as aggressive as we do, but there's definitely some, ones that are, that we can clean up, whether it's technique or, just kind of being a little smarter. So, there's definitely a conscious effort too, and, everything else this season we've tried to improve on. We've done a good job at that, so hopefully, the penalties will be just like that.
Coach said that he can't get penalized there, even though I know guys in here like the fact that he had Riley's back.
Do you as players do you like that? But do you also realize that he's saying like I can't get a penalty either?
Yeah, I mean, anytime your head coach has your back on that, because as a player, you don't know kind of how it's going to be received by the guys, but the minute you have your teammates and your coaches' respect and support, that's huge. That goes a long way. So that's why we all I think we all play so hard, is because everybody here really wants to be accountable to each other, teammates and coaches wise. So we got a really good thing going. Everybody respects everybody. It's a family atmosphere. So and we take that seriously. So the fact that it's authentic. It's not just kind of played up for the cameras. So when you have Sean do that, that's awesome.
What's the key to a fast start for the offense so life isn't so hard for you guys at the end?
Yeah, I think it's just execution early. I think sometimes when you don't have a fast start, you kind of learn from the lessons early on, learn from the bad plays early on, and able to adjust. But I think we just got to come out and make good plays to start, to just start the game. I think there was some mistakes, we kind of had early on that shot us in the foot, but execution early, that's what helps.
Evan, you guys have managed to win 2 games where you had 12 penalties for more than 120 yards. And I'm just curious how much of an emphasis, cleaner in that part of the game.
Yeah, that's we don't want to live like that for sure. So that's obviously something that we have to clean up and be better at. But yeah, we don't want to live that life. We want to be on the other side of no penalties, less yards, and dominating games. So we just got to clean that up.
Is it guys talking to each other and being accountable, especially like pre-snap stuff? Sometimes you're going to get penalties in football.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be mistakes, but I think it's just obviously you don't want to play timid and play cautious, but kind of just got to work the technique, kind of really honestly break down the film, where are the mistakes, where do we need to clean up. So I think we have the guys and the team to be able to do that.
Welcome back to the pod. I'm Troy Rink for the Denver Post. Hope that gives you a little flavor for the locker room. Guys love when Peyton sticks up for him. I was talking to Will Lutz about this at length, and he said, listen, every guy in here was picked by Sean. And so he says, I have people come up to me and say, does Sean trust you? And he's like, hey, I would not be on this team if he didn't trust me. So guys feel that, and that is important. I know some people roll their eyes about that, but you want to know your coach has your back. But you have to reciprocate too. If you want your coach to support you, you can't do dumb shit either. You've got to clean it up. If your goal is to be a championship level team, that's the standard. When I talk about this team, it's the standard they frame before the season, that they view themselves as a Super Bowl contender. If it was just, hey, we need to get back to the playoffs and get this thing going in the right direction, they're right there. They're 5-2. They've already done that. They reached the playoffs last year. They have higher goals. So in that higher goal framework, there's things you have to clean up, like penalties, like better starts, because your defense will wear down, folks. I covered enough baseball for 15, 20 years. The best bullpens in the world cannot take on 3-4 innings a night. Eventually they wear down. They're meant to go, every other night, take 2 innings, 3 innings. You can't have your bullpen coming in the 6th inning in April and May and then think they're all going to be fresh and great in August and September. It just doesn't work that way. So the offense has got to do better. We talked about Bo, getting him into rhythm, cutting the penalties down. And you're going to need it this week because, with all due respect to the Giants, the Cowboys offense is a hell of a lot better. Dak Prescott is playing as well as he has in a couple of years. He's healthy. Cap tip to Brian Schottenheimer, and this is my Richmond Flying Squirrels cap. My son Dagan has worked for the Giants for several years now. He worked one season in Richmond. Great little ballpark. I know they're going to have a new one, I think maybe even this season. But the Flying Squirrels, one of the best mascots in minor league baseball. But he worked in Colorado Springs too with Toasty, with the Vibes. That might have been one of the coolest mascots there. But when you look at Brian Schottenheimer, what he's done with this Cowboys offense, they're averaging 41 points a game at home, 24.3 on the road. But George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, oh my word, are they a handful? They are the best tandem in the league right now. And we know how this is going to go, folks. They're not going to go away from CeeDee Lamb. And we go they're not going to throw to Pat Stan. He's always going to get some targets because he's guarding the best receiver. Dak Prescott's not going to go into a game at Denver and just not throw to CeeDee Lamb. So Surtain's going to get some opportunity, but plenty of action is going to Moss. We know this. That's what pissed Moss off in part about that bad call. He already gets picked on. Teams are going at him. He doesn't need the official piling on. Like, you can't have calls like that. There's enough obvious calls. You can't miss if you're an official, and it can't come from the opposite side of the field. We know this. But Moss versus Pickens could decide the game, and Jake Ferguson in the middle of the field. If the Broncos lose this game, we're going to look up and say Pickens and Ferguson won their one-on-ones in their battles. And Denver cannot go into this game think they're going to win 20-17, 17-14. Dallas is going to score some points, folks. They get after it. Unless they turn the ball over, they're going to score points. The issue is their defense is atrocious. Now, last week they played a little more man, more single high safety. They look better. Under Eberflus, they have been awful. I mean, they just missed assignments, blown coverages, bad communication. But they look better against Washington. Now, Washington lost Jaden Daniels. He got hurt early in that game. They were a bit messy. They didn't have Terry McLaurin. So there's reasons maybe they got on track. But you've got to be able to punish that defense when they have mistakes. It's a defense you should be able to run on. These are the get-right type games where your offense kind of starts forming that identity we've talked about all the time. Run the ball well. That's what Denver does best. I know no one thinks that, but that's the one category offensively. They're in the top 10. I think it's 6 now at 131 yards a game. Establish the run. Limit the menu on the run plays. You get caught between being wide zone, man in run block. Limit the menu. Again, we talk about this. Do what you do well and do it often and get into the boot game. Bo Nix has got to be part of the run game. He had 3 for 46 in the fourth quarter alone. Bo Nix should be around 50 yards rushing most games. On scrambles, when they play man, if the Cowboys are going to go man and turn their back, you take that 12 yards, Bo. We saw it last night with Justin Herbert. Every time the Vikings blitzed, which they did under Flores, Herbert's like, okay, just run up the middle of the field for 15. There's nobody there, and their backs are turned. Bo Nix has got to be part of the run game, and he's got to be designed runs. Don't wait until the fourth quarter to call an RPO and a quarterback read. So run, establish it, and then because you're going to need points, folks, with this battle with Pickens and against CD Lamb and Ferguson. They will score. And Javonte Williams, good for Javonte, great guy. He's having a really nice rebound year. He looks healthy, and it's fantastic for him. Everything about it. He hasn't run as well on the road. They know Javonte, but if you want to beat the Cowboys, the Broncos have got to start better. Can't be digging out of a hole against a team that's way better offensively than the ones you played the last 3 weeks. And number 2, make them one-dimensional so you know the ball's coming to Pickens or Lamb or Ferguson. And no Greenlaw hurts. Him getting suspended hurts because they needed him against Ferguson. But this is the kind of game I think you can win 27-23, 27-24, because their defense will allow you to score. Because if the Broncos walk out of this game and they lose like 24-17, it's time to sound the alarm offensively. If you can't get going offensively against the Cowboys at home, there's no reason to think you're going to be able to beat the Chiefs in Kansas City or maybe even at home or even the Chargers or even Green Bay. These are the kind of games, mile marker games offensively, where you have to take care of business and show why you're a contender. But you're able to do it at 5-2. Typically, we'd be saying, Broncos 2-5. If they win 5 of their next 6, and we knew it wouldn't happen because they weren't good enough. Now this team has got those traits that they can finish 4-2 in one-score games after being 1-6 last year. Way better at the end of games. That's a great trait. They've got to be more functional, not great, but functional early in games to keep their defense rested and get this team into rhythm. If this offense gets into rhythm, watch out. If not, going to be some disappointment. So clean it up. Get Bo in rhythm. Cut down those penalties. And man, it's a tasty matchup this week with Surtain, Moss, CD Lamb, and George Pickens. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this pod. It should be a great weekend. I think the weather's going to be fine out at Empower Field at Mile High. I could not do this pod without Darby Hoggatt, my A1 from day one of Hoggatt Injury Law, Ted Shih's family law practice, and of course, Danny Bailey behind the screen who does all the graphics and framing. He's the best. And Nate Lundy, the man, the operator of Mile High Sports. They make all this possible. Broncos country, I do this pod for you. Happiness that begins with me. Go out there and have a great day.